Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 302. I'm here with Christy Stump, a band director at Gulf Breeze Middle School in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Christy, how are you?
Hey, I'm great.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here on a Friday as you enter vacation.
It's,
So you're doing God's work here by by helping other band directors out. And it seems I know I connected with you because of a clinic you gave earlier this year about preparing your band and being successful in sight reading, specifically at Assessment Festival. I think you guys call it MPA, right? Um,
mhm,
So we're going to discuss that a lot as we come forward. Can you tell us a little bit about like your teaching career and where you're from and where you're teaching now?
sure. I'm from Pensacola, Florida, which is Gulf Breeze is just a suburb of Pensacola. This is my 27th year teaching. Most of it's been in Florida. I did teach for 6 years in Birmingham, Alabama, and I did a couple of years in elementary school when my daughter was young to have a little more time with her. But I've mostly taught middle school band my entire career.
And your middle school program. If we were to come watch you teach, we were like to be on a fly on the wall for a little bit. Sometimes it's hard for us to think about what we do well, right? Like we're
Mhm.
always thinking about like how can we get better and all that. But if we were to see you teach, what is something that you think you do well?
Um, well, I'm a very hard worker. I'm very passionate about my job. There's a lot of silliness in my room. We do a lot of games and try anything I can come up with to engage the younger kids. I have a big passion for beginning band, taking them from, you know, not knowing how to open the case all the way through playing grade 3 literature by the time they leave me. So that's kind of my big passion of all is beginners.
Well, the fact that you're a hard worker, I mean, there you go, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's gonna be number one for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and number two, regarding beginning band, I know this was not a topic that we've talked about, but now that you say your passion is beginning band, if you had a bunch of brand new teachers in the room and you had to give them like one bit of advice when it comes to starting beginning band students, what would be something that you would say to them?
Gosh. Go slow, be patient. That first day is way harder than you think it will be. Get help, get advice, ask other people, listen to the Growing Band Director podcast.
The check's in the mail. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And for anybody who's watching on YouTube, you will see in the back a Christmas tree and a sousaphone. I think that's, and it's not a sousaphone ornament, it's an actual sousaphone.
Yeah.
Multiples. How many sousaphones are back there? One, two.
There's six total. Some are hidden by the tree.
I love that. So when I reached out to you, it was because you did this clinic called Cracking the Code in 2025 earlier in the year. So
Well, and
like,
I haven't done it yet.
oh,
I'm doing it in January of 2026. If you
oh,
want to
I
say
am
any of
so
that.
I am so happy that you corrected me.
Yeah.
So everybody heard that. That's fantastic. So it's coming up. So this is like a practice run for that,
Yep.
right? So anybody who's listening, who's going to be at the Florida Music Educators Conference in January, make sure you go to this and support it, even though you're getting some of the content here. So kind of how did you get to this point where you are giving a clinic about your band sight reading at festival?
Well, after 27 years of stealing other people's ideas and then coming up with a few of my own, I definitely have some ideas I've come up with my own. I think the mantra of beginning band or middle school band in general is necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been kind of come up with some tricks over the years that have made my bands pretty successful at sight reading. So I thought that would be a fun way to share it.
Well, that's one thing. Like we all left college saying we know how to do this, right? Or like,
Mhm.
here's how I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then you realize, okay, you run into this situation. Like you come up with all these things. And I think younger
Mhm.
teachers need to understand that it just takes time and experience to learn all those things that you're going to be talking about.
Yes, and stealing ideas from the greats. Go find people that are better than you. And I'm pretty good at knowing who is better than me and going after them and asking questions and getting them in my band room and learning from them.
In Maine at our festival, we're scored out a 95, and then we have 5 points left for sight reading. That's sort of how we do it. So we leave the room like we don't know our score yet, but we could be judged up to a 95, and then we get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever at the sight reading room. And we sight read at 2 grade levels below our concert repertoire. That's how Maine has it set up. How's it set up in Florida where you're at?
I somewhat similar. You get three scores for the stage and then one score for sight reading. And then there's a very complex chart that's in the FBA handbook for Florida people. Read your FBA handbook. I can't say that enough. But it's got the charts of how all the ratings kind of average out. The stage is definitely weighted more than sight reading, but you'd have to really look at that chart to see exactly how. And I don't know if there's a um, set amount you read below, but there is a chart if you're like, I'm in class MC, so I'm required to play on stage at least 2 grade 2s. And then in the sight reading room, I'm probably reading about a 1 or 1.5.
And so when you sight read, it's in a separate room. It's not in front of the audience.
Yes, separate, usually in the
Hmm.
band room of whatever school we're at.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who want to sight read in front of the audience. I've never really been of that. It's like that's kind of not what we normally do. Um, so I mean, have you heard of places where they actually do the sight reading and it's on the stage at the same time?
Well, here, if you're like the last band of the night, they'll
Hmm.
go ahead and do that so you and the judges can all get out quicker. But they usually leave it up to the band director, and a lot of band directors are terrified to do that, and they don't. But I'm usually, it just depends. I'm usually in the band room, sight reading in there, but we are allowed to bring in the parents of the students as long as no one's taking pictures or speaking to the students or anything like that. And I encourage the parents and my administrators to come in and watch the process, because to me, that's where you really see the teaching. On stage, you see a performance, but in the sight reading room, you see a teaching. Uh-oh, I got to wave my hands for the automatic lights to come
Oh, I
back
love
on.
that. I love that. Stand up and wave,
Just
do
a
whatever,
minute.
do whatever you got to do. In Maine, what we do is, so we'll be given a piece and then like I have a thought about, okay, maybe I have 6 percussionists in this band. When we get this piece, these kids are gonna play this part. These kids are probably gonna play the snare drum part. Like, do you usually have that set aside? I know these are like off-topic questions for what we have written, but or like is every kid required to play in the percussion section? Is there? I assume there's wording about that. How do you normally approach the
Um,
percussion part of it?
there's not really a requirement that they all play, but I have them all active. That is actually in my handout, kind of towards the end. Um, I mean, you're gonna put your best snare drummers on. I usually put my best snare drummer on the march and the second best on the overture. My best mallet players are divided up over the mallets. And then everyone has an assigned instrument, but a lot of times in my classification, there may not be um, suspended cymbal part or these other accessory parts. So they know that I'm either playing an accessory part or I'm standing behind the snare drummer helping them count, ready to grab their music if it falls off the stand, something like that. They all have a job. They're all actively engaged. Um, and I tell them that if the snare drummer gets lost, it's the assistant's fault. So that kind of keep them all moving.
Yeah, spoken like a true middle school band director.
Yeah,
Like, how do you say you're a middle school band director without saying you're a middle school band director? That there's an
right.
assistant, yep, for when it falls off the stand.
For sure.
Um, so mentioning the state list as well. I know I didn't plan this here, but so in Maine, we don't like. There's no prescribed list. Like literally, you can play what you want. It's kind of the wild, wild west when it comes to that. But basically, the point I wanted to make is that most of these states have a set list somewhere. And especially for younger teachers who are looking for more repertoire that they don't know, they're looking for lists. Just Google search all these lists and then go listen to all the pieces on
Mhm.
here. And you'll find a ton that maybe are not right for your band now, but you'll just start acquiring these hundreds of tunes, right? That you can start thinking about
Mhm.
programming with your school.
Yes. Now in Florida, they've started doing something a little different to keep the standard. In our handbook, there is published at this grade level, you're going to see one of these 3 keys and these time signatures, and here's the ranges that are likely will be in that type of thing. And then Excelsia Publishing Company is based here in Florida, and they put together the sight reading books every year, and it's one sight reading book. It has all the grade levels in it, and it's music that does not exist in the world yet. It hasn't been published yet. And then after that year, after it's cycled through the entire state of Florida for sight reading, then they will publish some of them after that. So it is all new music. You will not have seen it before, but you will have seen plenty of similar things. And a lot of people will go on the Excelsia website. They actually have the list of all the prior years sight reading music on their website, and you can buy prior years sight reading and kind of go from there.
How often do you suggest sight reading with students in general?
Well, we sight read pretty much at the very beginning, even beginning band, before we've started instruments. We are learning to clap rhythms, learning to count, things like that. To me, the best sight reading bands start beginning band through that process. Every line in the book is sight reading. So it's just and then we're building up that fluency, building up that music vocabulary to help them be successful down the road at official sight reading.
What are some of the things you do in the training of your students, well before the assessment? Not talking weeks or months, but like well in advance to ensure that they're fluent when they are sight reading.
Well, one little thing with beginners, we start with, and it's the silliest thing, but it never occurred to me until way into my career that students have trouble with this. They can say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, fine. They cannot say G, F, E, D, C, B, A. They cannot say D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D. Going backwards, it's second nature to us as musicians, but it's not second nature in the beginning. So we do a lot of fluency exercises like that. I have it written out. Sometimes it's not written out. Sometimes I'll say start on D and go up and down, those type of things. Gets them used to those note patterns that they're going to see. And we'll do that even before we start instruments. Rhythm is the most important part to sight read well. If you get off in your rhythms, the band could fall apart. If you miss a note or two, miss a key signature, the band won't fall apart. It may not sound great, but it's not going to fall apart. So rhythm is the most fundamental piece of that.
I agree 100%. You have mentioned here a book by Tyler R. Carey called Better by Sight. I'd like to have you talk about that just a little bit. And the reason I wanted to mention it is because we did a whole episode with Tyler on episode 262 on this book. My wife bought it the minute she heard about it last year at Midwest, and she says it's changed how the kids sight read. Can you kind of tell the audience, people maybe don't know about it, like why is it a great book and what does it do?
Sure. Let me grab my copy of it. I meant to have it ready.
Yep.
So shameless plug, Tyler was my student in middle school. I taught him in 7th and 8th grade. He played euphonium. Was a great student. I taught him nothing to do with composing, so that's all him. He's a brilliant individual and an amazing person. I love him to death. But yes, this is the book, Better by Sight, and it scaffolds. And as soon as I looked at the way it's scaffolded, the way I teach, I was like, this is a win. So I bought it this year as well, and we've used it a couple of times. And so each lesson, you pick what key you want to be in, and they progressively get more challenging, but you pick a key signature. And the first scaffold is rhythm and time. It's just basically a rhythm exercise. But it's not necessarily all unison. It's usually maybe 2 or 3 parts. Your low brass might be doing something different than your upper woodwinds are doing. But it's simple. And then the next line is the same rhythm, but that now they're adding a key signature and different pitches. And then the third line is again the same rhythm, the same pitches, but now we're adding dynamics to that. And then the fourth line is the same thing again, but there's going to be style, staccatos, accents, things like that. And then the mastery line, it's going to be a little different. It's not the same rhythm, but it's all the same concepts they've done. So in maybe 15 minutes, they've gone from just sight reading a basic rhythm to now something that's very musical. And the kids hear it and see it immediately like, wow, especially from the one where they're just doing the key and the pitches. To the mastery with the style and the dynamics and all those musical elements, they really get it. And so it makes a big difference to them. I've really enjoyed this book so far.
Yeah, my wife said the same thing. She's like, it's brilliant. And I think a lot of us have done similar things like in our teaching, right? You take a piece and you say, just clap the rhythm and then now add the pitches and whatever. But to see it laid out, she says the layout of the book is awesome. Yeah, very, very kid friendly. So you taught him well. Everything he has done is due to his great middle school band director.
Absolutely. Hey, Tyler.
And if he doesn't know that, he knows it now. Can we talk? How do you teach the students about watching and understanding you as a conductor? What are some things you do around that?
Well, if I can kind of an aside, this is something I invented a couple years ago. Not invented, but just an idea I came up with. Because like I said before, necessity is a mother invention. It was the night before MPA. And I had time in my final rehearsal to sight read one more time, but I couldn't find that piece. I did not want to waste that valuable rehearsal time on something simple. And I did not, also good advice, want to overwhelm the kids with something a little too hard. So it's really hard to find that sweet spot. And on that last day, to me, that was critical. And I never found that right piece that I already owned. So I thought about it and I said, we're not going to do that at all. So the next day in class, I got out the baton and I just conducted 4-4 and I said, clap on beat one of each measure. And we did it a couple times and that was pretty easy. And I said, okay, keep going, clap on beat one of every measure. And I changed time signature. I changed to 3-4, back to 4-4. And then there would be some mistakes and lots of giggling and laughing. But the one thing they were doing was watching. They were watching me like a hawk. And then I would conduct smaller for them to clap softer, conduct bigger for them to clap louder. And so I just kept changing it and mixing it up. So they were doing dynamics and they were watching me for those downbeats, which in the sight reading room, that is absolutely critical. And that's the best mistake I've ever made, is not having the piece for them to sight read on that last day. Because I do it every year. I even do it with beginning band, and it's lots of giggles and laughter, but they get it and they see how important it is to watch. And it was a game changer.
You also have written here that they can do it where they clap on 2, 3, and 4, or everything except for the downbeat. That's a good side of it too.
Yes. Yeah,
I've seen,
that's even harder.
I saw Gene Quinn one time do this in an honor band, but it was the concert B flat scale, and they were doing a piece that had mixed meter. So then she just mixed up the meter, and they didn't change to the next note of the scale until they got to beat one. So similar concept.
Yes.
You're talking about in this stage, making sure that they're watching you, and if they're not watching you, they can't function in rehearsal. Like when I met with Peter Boonshaft, that was one of the big things. Like, design your warm up every day so that they have to watch you, so you have this connection with them at all times. So one thing I struggle with is, like, I do that a lot, and I think it's really important, but in our warm up, we also use metronome at times, right? So, like, balancing that. When do I use the metronome? When do I make sure they're watching me so I can change tempo and dynamics and things? Those are things that I constantly think about. I'm not sure if there's a question there or not, but things I'm constantly thinking about as part of the warm up as well.
Yeah, that's great. And just knowing your kids and knowing, do they need the metronome more? Do they need to be working on watching me more? Every day it could be different.
And you mentioned the stand height, right? So often kids need to put it down or usually put it up higher, right?
Almost always higher, yes. Except for the trombone players, they want to hide. Yes, before I step on the podium in class, every class, every day, pull your stand up, I'm pointing out the few that don't have it the right height before I step on stage, before we play anything in a performance, before we do play at MPA, in the sight reading room. The first thing I do while the assistants are passing out music is stand on the podium, put the baton up, and then get all their stand heights right. Because if they're, looking at their feet, no matter what you're doing on that podium, it doesn't matter.
Another thing is the kids on the side, making sure that you're at a good angle so the kids are facing you, not facing out to the audience, right? Similar. So now that you're a couple of weeks before assessment or MPA, what are the things that you're starting to do that you want to make sure you do then?
Well, we talked about assigning the percussion their jobs and who's going to be the assistants and who's going to play. And when we sight read, we'll walk through, and they're middle schoolers, every detail. Okay, we finished playing our third tune, and now we're going to walk from the stage to the sight reading room. It might be chilly out there. When you get in the sight reading room, blow a little warm air in your instrument. The judge is going to be talking. You're focusing on me and paying attention and making sure we're on the same page and we're doing the right things. Euphoniums, that you have to check that you have the bass clef book, not the treble clef book. And then we talk about not making a sound on your instrument during the prep time, those type of things. Just preparing them so when they get there, it's something they're used to, they've heard about. There shouldn't be a lot of unknowns.
And you have listed here that you don't want your kids to just sing, you want them to count.
Yes. I think early in my career, I would get on the sight reading stage and I'd bum, 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 and then a friend clued me in, you really don't need that as much as you need to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3. So I count through everything with them rather than just sing their parts, kind of a combination, singing and counting their parts.
I assume the sight reading is timed. Is there a moment where the kids can look at it, but you can't help them? And then when you start, how has that worked out in Florida?
Oh, so we have, I hope I get this right, 3 minutes for the march and 5 minutes for the overture. We can do anything we want during that time except play instruments. So it's a mad dash of, going through everything quickly.
So you have 3 minutes total, including playing the piece.
No. At the end of the 3 minutes, the judge calls time. At that point, in Florida, you can't say another word. You give the downbeat and they play it from then.
So do you find it's more successful? So how do you use those 3 minutes?
Well, I have here a silly acronym because middle schoolers are silly and they will remember it is BARF. And I didn't come up with that. Actually, I think I stole it from the band director's Facebook group, which is wonderful and terrible all in one. But the I saw that on there. Someone had put it, and the B stands for before the music starts. So that's when we talk about the time signature, the key signature, the tempo, and we go through anywhere and see if those change at any point. The A stands for accidentals and articulation. So I'll try to skim through and find a couple of those to fix. R stands for rhythms. We'll go through and count a few isolated rhythms that might be tricky, or trumpets look at measure 38. You're going to come in on beat 2. So watch me there, that kind of thing. And then the form, if there's a repeat, which is always terrifying for the middle school people. Repeats and just the shape of the piece. This middle section has a clarinet solo and it's lyrical. This third section is going to pick back up that kind of thing.
In Maine, we sort of have like a 2-minute section where the kids can do anything they want except for play, and then a 2-minute section where the director can help them. So we kind of like divide it up a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So what I've found that I do is that's worked well for our bands is basically our kids are prepared. Like we do this well ahead of time many times. We have one kid who's going to count the band off, right? Like one kid with the metronome. Okay, it says Allegro. So, you take that kid. And then, the lights went off again. I'll keep talking. We count off with the kid counts off with the metronome. And then we have our students either count all the way through the piece, or we call sizzle or whisper count, where they're, just like tonguing the rhythms, and they go all the way through the piece with their fingers moving. So they basically get a read through of the piece. So then when they do that, I have the score and I'm focusing on, okay, they messed that up, they messed that up, they messed that up. So then when it's my turn, I'm not starting from the beginning. I kind of point out measure 48 and measure 12 and measure 6 and all that. And then we get a chance to go through, and that's worked well for us as well. But that's because we have that kind of split a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm not sure how that would work at the middle school level, to be honest with you. I mean, I know I'm a high school teacher, so teaching those older students, they might have a little bit more autonomy in doing that alone. Do you think you could do that at the middle school level too, where a kid counts it off and they like go through without a conductor at all?
I wouldn't want to do that. I just wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to be in control and all those things. But yeah, we do sizzle all the way through it. And if you're a Florida person, there's been a lot of dissension over, does airplaying count as making a tone or not? Because the handbook says you cannot make a tone. And so it depends on who you ask. And so to err on the side of not getting the judge that feels differently, we make sure to sizzle and never airplay.
Yeah. So is airplay like when you're playing through your instrument?
Yeah, just lightly blowing that air to where it's not producing a note, but they can articulate finger and.
Yep. I love that. Amano Music is a proud sponsor of the Growing Band Director podcast. If you're a band director looking for a clear path to grow your program, take a look at the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner. It helps you map out your priorities, organize your year, and stay focused on the things that truly move your program forward. Inside the planner, you'll find tools for long-term planning, weekly goal setting, reflection, and building stronger support systems for your students and community. You can find the Band Director's Goal Setting Planner at amanomusic.com. That's AAMANO music.com. And listeners to the Growing Band Director podcast receive a special 10% discount by entering the code GBD10 at checkout. That's GBD and the number 10 at checkout. You've heard me talk about the wonderful Tuner Caddy product. Now introducing the Tuner Caddy Tuner TCT60M. It's a chromatic tuner that transposes for instruments in F, C, B flat, and E flat. Has a 6-foot clip-on microphone so they can tune from their seat, a built-in metronome to keep your tempos honest, and a bright, easy-to-read display so even the trumpet section can't miss it. Pair it with the Tuner Caddy and you have the Tuner Caddy system, a place for everything and everything in its place. Today's episode is sponsored by the Thumb Gummy, a simple but powerful teaching aid designed for band students and their teachers. If you've ever taught beginners or even students a few years in who still struggle with their hand position, you know how much time can be lost with the same reminders over and over again. Thumb Gummy was created to fix that problem. It gives students a gentle guide for where their hands should go so they play more comfortably and with better technique. That means fewer bad habits, less frustration, and more progress in every rehearsal. Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast. Excelsior Music Publishing provides festival and assessment music for concert band, jazz ensemble, and solo and ensemble performances, as well as method books to help your students grow. A variety of overtures, marches, and lyric works included on numerous state lists await you. Choose music to meet your contest and festival needs at excelsiormusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. Sponsorship for today's podcast is provided in part by Austin Custom Brass. Austin Custom Brass is the largest Adams brass dealer in the United States. Adams Brass makes some of the world's finest trumpets, flugelhorns, trombones, euphoniums, and tubas. Find out why some of the most renowned musicians in the world play Adams Brass, like many of the brass musicians from the Rotterdam Philharmonic Orchestra. Trent Austin, founder of Austin Custom Brass, is also an Adams artist. You can call Austin Custom Brass today at 816-410-0826 to learn more about Adams Brass, or visit their website at www.austincustombrass.biz. Christy, what are some sort of things that you're doing with your students just before assessment?
Well, we're going to sight read a couple times. I honestly don't spend a lot of time sight reading leading up to MPA because we've been sight reading since beginning band. So, and every time we do a new piece, we might, if it's a much more complex piece than they need to be sight reading, we might sight read literally 8 measures, maybe 16 measures, but we will go through the process like we would in the MPA room, just much more abbreviated. So they're kind of used to that format already. So I honestly don't spend a lot of time sight reading right before MPA, but I will usually 2 times if I feel like we need one more, maybe 3. That's usually it. But to me, it all comes down. It's a game of psychology. You want to have them crash and burn one time.
Mm-hmm.
So they really focus. So you want to pick something a little more complex. And maybe it's just in 3-4 times signature, maybe in the key of A flat, maybe has a lot of rests in there. So they got to count those rests, but somewhere where, they're probably not going to do terribly well. And then that kind of gets them, okay, I've got to really watch and pay attention next time. And then right before MPA, we're going to do something on the easier side to build that confidence. Oh, I got this. And I'm telling them constantly, you might think the sight reading is the scariest part because you haven't seen it yet, but there's nothing in that room you haven't seen before. Everything, it's just arranged in different order, but you will know everything in there. Just watch me and use the skills we've been doing for years now.
So it sounds like you have a pretty systematic approach to the whole sight reading thing, from preparation all the way through how you do that day. Anything else about, helping students succeed in that sight reading room that we haven't covered?
For Florida people, read the handbook because there's very specific rules. We talked about the stand height. On the actual podium in sight reading, I actually asked on the FBA Facebook page, has anyone ever been disqualified in the sight reading room for any of things? Because it's kind of vague. It just says, no, you have to use traditional conducting techniques. And I'm like, what is that? Because Leonard Bernstein, kind of out there, there's a lot of conducting techniques out there that would be maybe considered traditional, but I'm not going to use them with my middle school band. So I've asked anyone, have they ever been knocked down for conducting incorrectly? And the only thing I've ever heard, one person told me that a band director would, every time they got to rehearsal number, he would jump in the air. So they knew we're at square 8 because he just jumped in the air. So that's a little much. So I don't know that person got knocked down, but I think the judge spoke to them like, you can't do that.
I feel like that might come from people who maybe will clap along instead of conducting, or maybe they will conduct literally the rhythm that the kids have rather than showing the beat. I don't know. That's sort of where my thought goes.
Yeah, something like that. But I do have all kinds of of course, kids don't know what a key is, how to use a key anymore because everything is digital locks or the little fob in your pocket. But this means check your key signature. You're either missing it or it's about to change. So key signature. And if you can't see, I'm pretending to crank a key in a car and a door lock. I might put a 1 or a 2 in the air for first or second ending, those type of things, but nothing that honestly I wouldn't do in a concert.
Yeah, you're doing whatever your kids need in order for you to help them be successful in that time.
Right. I do make my down beats a little bigger than the other beats in the measure.
I mean, what other subject is going to go get on a bus, travel to a different state, a different part of the state, wear fancy clothes, make it after school, and then get professionals to come in and judge you and then do a skill for the first time, they don't do that in anything else. So whatever you need to do to help your kids. A question I had, when kids make a mistake in the sight reading, right? Do you purposely have like a game face where you go, I'm not going to react negatively, or do you like just wear your emotion on your sleeves? If they screw up, like you can tell that they screwed up, or you're just like keep them pumped the whole time. How do you approach that?
I haven't really thought about that, but we do talk about if you make a mistake, put it behind you immediately, go to the
Yep.
next thing. So I'm not gonna, I guess, show it too much on my face. If a trumpet players are trying to come in 4 measures early, my eyes are gonna get real big and I'm gonna nod my head at them and put my hand, and if they're watching me, they're gonna see that and stop, and then I'll give them a big cue at the right place. Those type of things that would be helpful for them to continue moving forward. But freaking out over something that's in the past would not be a good idea, I don't think.
We try to pride, as I'm sure you do as well, like getting a good sight reading score. That's a big
Mhm.
a big part of the musicianship, and we're at a 5, and most of the time our groups get a 5. And there was one year within the last 10 years, I think our second group, one group like just imploded, and I think they ended up getting a 3 out of the 5, and that 3 cost them like that top rating,
Oh,
right? Like
wow.
they were 1 point away because they got a 3 instead of the 5 or the 4. um so it's funny, like that was a real moment where you tell the kids afterwards, here's how the scores broke down. And like, I'm just telling you that 3 caused you to not get so like that kind of changed a little bit of the culture of that band of like, oh, sight reading is important. And here's a
Hmm.
tangible reason why.
Yes, for sure.
And I assume the sight reading in Florida goes into the final score and like the
Yes.
designation that you get afterwards. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Well, Christy, thank you for being here. I have a couple questions to ask you on the way out.
Okay.
First of all, who is another band director sort of in your area that you just want to give a shout out to because they're awesome, and why are they great?
Oh gosh, so many. But my band dad, my own high school band director, and he's been an all-state clinician. He's very accomplished, but he's the reason I'm a band director. He was another parent to me growing up is Eddie Stedman. He's amazing, and you should definitely get him on the podcast.
Got it.
Susie Smithy, she was at Gulf Breeze Middle School before me. She taught here for 31 years and has a track record of 31 years of straight superiors at MPA.
Wow.
So she's pretty amazing and definitely puts a lot of pressure on me to try to keep that track record going. But she's amazing and she loves the kids like I do. So I've learned a lot from her. So
I
many
love
great
that.
people
I
here.
love that. What's a piece or a couple pieces or whatever from middle school that you love to teach that you think people should know about, even if it's a piece you think people already know? And then like what's great about those pieces? And depending on the piece, we might get a chance to listen to it on the way out.
Oh, okay. Um, well, I have recently in the last few years just fallen in love with Laura Esta's music.
Yeah.
She's so great and so much fun. And it's obviously it's nothing you'd play at MPA, but it's holiday music. But we all need a lot of holiday music. Santa Claus's Rooftop Ride. It is
Yeah.
so fun. It changes meter. It's got a lot of fun little syncopation, cool percussion. The kids loved it. I loved it. It's one of those ones I will put in my frequent rotation for sure. I've always been a big fan of Robert W. Smith's music. For beginning band, my favorite go-to piece is probably Furioso by him, because it sounds so complex, but the whole thing beginning to end is just ostinatos. So you teach each group their ostinatos, and it very rarely changes from that. And then they layer them. I tell the kids it's like building a cake. You're the flour, now you're the butter, and we add it all together and we make this delicious cake. But it sounds very complex when it's actually not.
I love that. Christy, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah.
On the way out, I'm gonna just play for the audience after we hang up. So we'll listen to you said Furioso by Robert W. Smith,
Yes.
and then we'll listen to Laura Estes' Cinder Claus Rooftop Ride. Christy, thanks so much for meeting. I appreciate it so
Thank
much.
you.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.